Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Funky Brain Podcast. My name is Dennis, and this is my Funky Brain. Our guest today is a motivational speaker, life coach that founded Bizzy Living Sober, a lifestyle brand that strives to excite, inspire, motivate, educate, and convey a message of hope that one can live a happy, fun, fulfilled life as a recovering alcoholic. Bizzy Living Sober represents sobriety in a positive manner. So Bizzy and I, Bizzy is her name, Bizzy Living Sober, Elizabeth, Bizzy, Elizabeth. But we've had some great chats, and I was on her podcast recently at some point, but she's one of my favorite human beings with a lot of energy. Miss Elizabeth Chance, how are you doing today, Bizzy?
For one, I want to say thank you for having me on, and thank you for inviting me. I really, really, really appreciate it because I totally believe in my cause. And I'll give you the Bizzy. So my real name's Elizabeth, but they call me Bizzy because my brother could never pronounce Elizabeth. So here I am, Bizzy. And I had a marketing firm come to me because I've been really passionate about being sober for a long time. Since the minute I got sober, which I'm actually a little over a week shy of my 14th year anniversary of not picking up a drink, which is amazing to me. I really have been passionate about the shame that's associated with addiction and really kind of like getting rid of the shame because I don't believe that alcoholics we already have enough shame, right? So, getting to that place where it's not about the shame of yesterday or the fear of tomorrow. It's all about getting busy, living sober today, baby.
And there's that energy that I love so much. And I love your mission, to transform the stigma of addiction.
So I think that it's ironically, even though we're living in 2020, right? We're still living in 2020, but there is still a stigma walking around in society today that if you are an alcoholic, right? Your first visual of the description of an alcoholic for most layman people, anybody walking on the planet, if you say, what's an alcoholic? You're going to be like, oh, they're a person who lives under the freeway. They might have a box that they live in, or they live on a park bench and they carry their bottle around in a paper bag. Someone that's a vagrant, someone that isn't a member of society. They become an outcast. It's someone, that nobody really wants to be. It's like the last thing you want to be. It's like, it's got this horrible stigma around it, right? It's something very dark and something very that you will never get better. You're destined to this life where you're going to die underneath this freeway all alone and nobody's going to love you. And that's how society, unfortunately in 2020, it's still like that, right? I mean, that is still, I think we're getting a little bit better, but we still have that stigma, and more people die of addiction, overdoses, addiction, than this whole pandemic, but nobody's talked about it, right? It's like the stigma is still so bad that they won't talk about it. And alcohol, I could go on and on ad nauseum about why it is the way it is, but I hate this. I hate the shame and I hate the stigma, and I want to change that because who would think that a girl that grew up in one of the best neighborhoods in America, right? I had a big house. My parents were, members of the community. We belonged to a country club. I had a car in my driveway. I grew up with Gucci loafer, whatever, all those things that everybody thinks, oh, but that person can't be an alcoholic. I'm like, but yeah, I am. I passed the 20-question test.
It's a really good point to make is like, right, alcohol is no respecter of who you are. And this other podcast I did recently with Jean McCarthy, she said something really cool, and it was, alcohol wants to kill you, but it'll settle for making you miserable instead. Like, isn't that powerful? And it doesn't matter, you could be that bum under the bridge holding up the sign with the scruff and the overcoat and the brown paper bag, or, and I've sat in meetings with that. I sat in a meeting once with this guy who fell asleep under a bridge while it was snowing. I live in Colorado here. He fell asleep under this bridge because he passed out drinking in a snowstorm, and they had to cut his legs off. And he had to go to this, physical rehab facility. And then he came to AA meetings in a wheelchair for like 6 months. And I was actually a sponsor for a little while. After 6 months of doing all of his rehab treatments and everything that he needed to do, to get his legs, get used to that, not having legs and stuff. And he would go and share in meetings, and he was all about staying sober. And 6 months later, he went out and got drunk. They cut his legs off. That's how powerful alcohol and addiction is. It's like, and it doesn't care if you're that guy under the bridge or a judge or a lawyer or a celebrity or an international icon.
Or the president of the United States.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't matter. It does not matter. So, but let's get to the real point of addiction is like, the drugs, the alcohol, the food, the porn, the shopping, those aren't the problems. That's what I'm using to cope with my problems, to not have to feel. I don't like feeling. I'm not good at that. I didn't get that lesson in kindergarten. I didn't learn how to feel. So when I was 15, I started drinking so I didn't have to feel. Do you have experiences like that?
Well, I started drinking at 13. And
so you have more experience than me then.
I don't know if that's true or not, but I can tell you, and this is not an original thought that I'm going to tell you, but the feelings were overwhelming. The feelings were overwhelming. A lot of times when I've told my story, I felt like if I did have a feeling, I'd be like Humpty Dumpty. And do you remember Humpty Dumpty, the story of Humpty Dumpty, and all the king's horses and all the king's men could never put Humpty back together again. And I thought that if I went to that place inside of me, right, that place of where all the fear was, and we kind of associate the word trauma with someone that's been in Vietnam or been in Iraq or been in a war, but trauma can be to a layman person something really like just being yelled at by their parents, right? Never having the attention they need. So whatever trauma that I had that was deep down inside of me, I didn't want to feel it because I thought if I go to that place, I'm never going to be just institutionalized. Now I'm in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, right? I'm locked up in the hospital. I'm all tied up and that's it. I'm done. So give me another drink because it makes it so much easier. And when you just spoke about that, when I got married and all this in my addiction. And I remember when I was getting divorced from my ex-husband and I was standing in a bar. And of course I had the best outfit on because it's always, for me, I'm all about the outside, right? Like I've got this image management that I'm totally in charge of in my life. So I always have to look the part, even though if inside I'm totally dying, but I have the right outfit on and I'm standing at a bar and I'm ordering a dirty martini, Grey Goose straight up with olives. And a girlfriend of mine comes up to me and she's like, gosh, you're handling this divorce so well. It's awesome. And I'm like, yeah, get me another dirty martini.
Yeah, inside, your outsides aren't matching your insides at all.
No. I remember being at one of the largest balls, fundraisers in Philadelphia. And I'm there with the creme de la creme, right? And I'm in the best dress. I've got my hair's done. I've got the greatest shoes on. And I go and I stand outside because I smoke cigarettes. And I smoked a cigarette and I had a dirty martini in my hand. And I thought, if this is it, this is horrible. Like I'm so alone. I'm at this event. I can't even be me. All I want to do is just fill me with alcohol so I don't have to feel because I feel so uncomfortable.
So tell us what happened to get you to be this like beautiful, successful woman that we see here today.
Well, for one, thank you for the compliment. So 14 years ago today, I was, I had gotten divorced. I had 3 small kids. My grandmother had died. It was her was at the beginning of July. So 14 years ago in July, my grandmother, who was 94 years old, who I was very close to, passed away. And I was asked out of 13 grandchildren if I would give the eulogy. Now the feelings are just insane because now I've gotten divorced. I've got 3 kids. And for me, getting divorced felt like I had a grenade in the living room and shrapnel hit everyone. And it wasn't like they were bleeding outside, but it was all inside stuff. So everybody was sad around me. I had that going on. My grandmother's dying and I'm drinking a lot now. I'm drinking a lot. And one of my best friends had flown in and I'm giving the eulogy. I'm like, at the pulpit, if you had brought a match, I would have blown up because I was so hungover. And then I got to where we went to the next place and I looked at the bartender. I'm like, keep them coming. I was drinking a lot, very heavily at that point in my life. I remember my sister got married and she married a guy who was sober and half the people at the wedding were sober. And I didn't think I was that bad because I remembered a couple things because I'm a blackout drinker and I've been a blackout drinker since the beginning, right? So I don't remember anything normally. When I start drinking, I'm off to the races. The day after the wedding, my mother had hosted this really beautiful brunch for my sister and all the people that were out of town guests. And this really attractive guy comes up to me and says to me, do you know you have a drinking problem? And the guy said that to me, and I don't know about you, but for me, like I got in the car, I mean, a couple hours later, I got in the car to drive. I had to go on a 2-hour ride to the beach and I was by myself. And being alone as an alcoholic, for me at least, my isms and all that craziness of my head. So my head starts going, am I an alcoholic? Am I not an alcoholic? Am I an alcoholic? Am I not an alcoholic? Right? You go back and forth in your head. Because the last thing in the world I wanted to be was an alcoholic. Like I did not want to admit that. So I get to the beach. Somebody offers me a cocktail. I said, no, I'm not going to drink. And I was like, God, see, I can do this. I can do this. Well, the next day at 5:00, somebody said, do you want to drink? And I said, sure. Because look, I didn't drink for that 24 hours. I proved to me for 24 hours I didn't need a drink. And for me, I thought if you're an alcoholic, you have to drink every day, right? But I wasn't like, I didn't drink every day. But when I drank, I got drunk. So I ended up at 3:00 in the morning, sitting on the end of the dock of the bay with a carton, with a pack of smokes, my cell phone, and a bottle of wine. And I woke up the next day and I went for a run, not like a natural thing that I would do. And I went for a run and I fell to my knees and I said, God, please help me. And this wasn't the first time I had said to God, please help me, but I don't know what it was about that hot summer day on that beach in New Jersey that I was just like, God, please help me. And I went home and my brother-in-law was there. Now he's my ex-brother-in-law, but he was there. And I said, I really want to quit drinking. And he said, you're not going to quit. I'm like, I really want to do this. And he said, all right, if you're going to do this, you're going to call this woman and you're going to meet her and you're going to meet her in a 12-step room in a church basement, of course. I don't know why I said yes, Dennis. I still don't know why I said yes, why I listened to this woman. I have no idea, but that's how desperate I was. And I went and I met her and she was a mom and she had 3 kids. She had gone to the University of Pennsylvania. I had gone to finishing school. So she was really smart. I was like, okay, I got by the skin of my teeth. But she had this joy and this happiness that I was so craving, right? Like I wanted that. I wanted to live life on life's terms. And I'm a social being, right? Like I love being around people. So I knew I had to do something because I couldn't go to those country clubs and those parties and all the rest of it, at least for the first year. So that was the beginning of my story. And I met this woman and she, I believe that, you know, there's this thing that they have in 12-step rooms and I'm just going to say AA, that you get this thing, a person called a sponsor. And I think that that's like one of the hardest parts about getting sober is finding that right person that you're going to, right? There's so much emphasis put on it, but I don't believe there's as much like criteria that goes with the emphasis of how important it is, right? Like, so you think, well, I'm just going to ask this person and then it becomes this relationship. And if it isn't the right person, you have this shame come up that you have already had for so many years that this isn't working. And how am I going to back out of this situation? Because I know that this person isn't right for me anymore. And they use this term like firing the person. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. I don't even have them on my payroll. So how am I supposed to fire them? So it was crazy. But for me, the first person I worked with, and I only worked with her for about a year, but she helped me in that first year, which was so important. And I'm just going to finish with this. My first year, she said to me, you're going to call me every day. You're going to go to a meeting every day. And I looked at her and I'm like, don't you understand? I'm busy. Like my nickname's Bizzy. Like that's too much. And she's like, well, if you want what I have, you're going to do this. I did it. I planted my seed and I said, you know what? I'm going to do what this woman says for a year and I'm going to see how I feel. I'm just going to give it a year. That's not very long given my life. And I'm going to see how it feels at the end of the year. And I planted my tree. So now I did that in that first year. So now I can weather storms, right? So if a hurricane comes, I'm kind of like a palm tree. I'll be like, oh, okay, I can weather it because I took the time to see and feel and like, what is it like to have your first Christmas, your first Thanksgiving, all that stuff.
I love it. And it's so important to get through those first things, which most people don't get to. You know, and when you talk about the success rate in recovery, sobriety, overcoming any addictions, it's very low. It's single digits. Really, most people last for any considerable period of time because they don't get past those things because they never got past it before. And then we get into cross addiction. Oh, well, I quit drinking and I don't smoke weed anymore. Or I quit drinking, but now I smoke a little weed. Or now I quit drinking and smoking weed, but now I like to eat chocolate cake every night when I'm binge watching Netflix instead of feeling. Like there's so many different things. And, you know, some of them are healthier than others. You can get addicted to exercise. You know, all these things that we do to not feel. Sometimes we just need to get through the feeling. But at first, you just need to stop drinking. And then you get through your first Christmas, and then your first Thanksgiving, and then your first, all these firsts. And then all of a sudden you realize I'm just not drinking anymore. And I'm somewhat happy too. Like that's the cool piece about it. And so what are some of the tools that you use, you know, outside of your podcast, because you host this podcast, and like me, we're not making money in doing this podcast. I do it because if I could just reach a couple people and keep one person from wanting to like commit suicide or homicide or just be depressed and help them become happier, if we could just help one or two people today, like how awesome is that?
So with that, I'll give you a little background. So I am a certified recovery coach and I am a life coach. And I saw I did have clients that I saw for many years. And I believe that God intervenes in my life, right? So for me, I call my higher power God. And I was blessed, fortunately or unfortunately, to be going to church my whole entire life. So I had that growing up. So I've always had a God, and it wanes what it is and but the spirituality aspect of my life. I believe spirituality is really important to have something. It was like the best gift I think I gave my children. But I was invited to go to a round table about almost 5 years ago. And they said the woman that was there, that was the host was a good friend of mine. And then this woman that was giving a speech talked about 0 to 5. Her company's called 0 to 5. And she brings products from 0 to 5. Because a lot of people, especially me, I start the project, I go to number 4, then I go back to number 2, and then I go back to number 3. It's, you know, it's being concise. So I met with her. And at first I was giving town halls in my town and talking about addiction and about kids. At that point, I had kids in high school and what it was like to be a sober mom and raising teenagers so that they don't go to where I went to. So I give a town hall, and nobody really wants to come and hear some mom talk about alcoholism, just to be honest. I mean, if it's somebody famous, they all wanted to go and hear like these basketball stars and all the rest of it. And that's awesome. I don't poo-poo that at all, whatever way you get there. So they would go do that, but nobody really wanted to come to my town hall. So then, and this marketing firm 0 to 5 said to me, you know, why don't you start doing a podcast? And I was like, what is a podcast? I'm 51 years old. I have no idea what a podcast is. My kids listen to them, but I had no idea what one was. And they said, why don't you do a podcast? So I do my podcast. I do that. I have people writing to me very often. Luckily, I have a lot of people that write to me, and I work on that on a daily basis. I still continue to go to 12-step meetings. And now I go to another group as well. I don't only go to AA. I go to another one to help me with my codependence issues. And I do that. I have a network of women that I talk to on a regular basis. And we talk about tools that work for me. I know in the beginning, if I had something that, the self-loathing is a big thing for addicts, and that I'm not good enough. That those old tapes we hear from when we were growing up, right? Like a lot of that is really hard. And I can tell you one thing that worked for me. I had a sponsor that said to me, I'd be like, I just have these negative feelings come up all the time, and I just hate them. I hate them. I hate them. And I talked badly about myself. Right? I'd be like, God, I'm so stupid. I'm so dumb in this negative way. And she'd be like, why do you wear a rubber band around your wrist? And every time you speak to yourself in a negative way, take that rubber band and pull it. I can actually take my hairband and do it. But you do like this. So you like pull it, and you're like, it hurts. It doesn't hurt. It's not like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry, but you just make yourself remember, like, why did I say that? And the more I did it, eventually that voice changed to being softer and nicer. But I still have to work on it today with almost 14 years of recovery, right? Like I still sometimes will go to that negative voice because it's comfortable, right?
Yeah, totally comfortable. And the idea is to become independent and to be confident. And what you said was huge, the self-loathing. We have to really work on practicing that self-care, that self-love, and there's a difference between being selfish and taking care of yourself. And a lot of people don't understand that fine line there. But what are the stories that you're telling yourself? And a lot of people do this all day, and we've been programmed to do it for decades. That we've been doing since we were kids. Maybe we heard them from our parents. We're not good enough. We're not thin enough. We're not, vibrant enough. Whatever the stories are, our parents or somebody, maybe a teacher when we were 5 years old might have said something that we carry through to keep us down and keep us sick. And the idea after you stop drinking and after, a few months goes by, and then when you need to start growing up and looking at the world differently, becoming mature and responsible, part of that is recognizing the self-defeating attitudes that you have about yourself. And most people don't realize that, and that's why we call that the gift of desperation. I need to be really hurt. And I wish I could say that since I stopped drinking for a long time for me too, that I don't suffer anymore. That's not true. We all do on some level. And it's human. It's like I'm a coach, and I have a coach, and he has a coach or a mentor or a sponsor. Like everybody, we all need to have that person. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. It's a paradox, right? So it's important to be able to ask somebody for help. That's called humility. Like if something's not going right, it's like asking for directions. Wouldn't it be better to just stop if you're lost, to stop and ask for directions? So I was always the guy that would stop and ask for directions. If I'm lost, I'd be like, I'm going to stop and ask this guy for directions and get there in 10 minutes instead of driving around like an idiot, wasting gas for 2 hours. Let's just get there. It's like, be humble enough to ask.
And when you said that we want to be independent, like I am definitely not, like the minute that I go, I got this, and I say I'm independent and I don't need anything, that's a big fat lie. So for me, every morning I have to get quiet, and I have an altar in and it might sound crazy, but like I have this Buddha in my house, and I love it because it makes me feel happy. And that's my time to be like, God, please show me what you want me to see today. Prior to coming on this show, I said, God, what do you want me to see today? And that asking for help that you just described, we don't teach people to ask for help, right? We don't teach people when we're little kids, like it's a good thing to ask for help. I remember my oldest son, he saw it even as a little kid, like that's a sign of weakness, Mom. I don't want anybody to help me. And I'm like, you know what, Ken, it's awesome. Like we this is such a great resource we have. Let's go do it. Let's see what it's like. Let's see how they can help you understand trigonometry. I can't help you with that. I had to humbly say, like, this is not my gig, dude. I'm not good at math, but I can do 2 + 2. But when you're doing this trigonometry and the decimal point, all the whatever, it's too much for me. But acknowledging that, and that takes time, and it takes self-love, and it takes somebody being by your side saying you're not alone. Like you're not alone. You are not alone. And whatever it is that you have for that spiritual thing, again, if it is Buddha, if it's Allah, if it's Jesus Christ, whatever it is, you're not alone. And we got your back. And I always say that on Busy Living Sober, like call me, write to me. And people do it all the time. And every time they write to me, I write them right back. And they're always like, oh my God, you actually did what you said you were going to do. And I'm like, yeah. Like, that's my word. I want everybody to know that if you're out there, do not feel alone. We're here. You might not like where you went to the first meeting. Try another one. We don't like the first bar we go to. I'm not going to keep going there. I'm going to try another one. Try another one. Try another one. Be nice to yourself. Treat yourself with kid gloves. And for those people that don't know what a kid glove is, it's a white leather glove that people used in the 20s and 30s, especially women, and they were nice and they were white and they were soft. Be nice to yourself. Love yourself. All you have to do is one day at a time. One day at a time. For me, I literally had to take it one day at a time, and there's a prayer, and I'm not going to say the whole thing, but it's pretty much, I'm going to summarize it as this. It's like yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here. All we have is today, the present. And picking up this phone, it is like weighs like 800 pounds, right? Like if you're in that place of like, I can't do it. I just can't do it. And the thought of picking up the phone is so hard because it is. It's like, this weighs 1,000,000 pounds. Do it anyway. do it anyway. And there are Zoom meetings. I love it. I have been going to meetings all over. I was just in the Netherlands. I go to London. I go to Paris. They're English speaking. You just put in Google, like, where's a meeting? And they give you the Zoom code. And you can go, and you don't even have to put your name up. It can just say iPhone or Samsung, whatever you've got device, Galaxy, whatever it is. You don't even have to say, and be a voyeur in it and just check it out. This is the best. To me, like, to get sober right now, would be so much easier than walking into that church basement in your neighborhood and having so you have 50, 100 people like turning their heads, checking you out. Here you can just be like a voyeur. You don't even have to just check it out. Just check it out. See if it's for you. If you don't like one, try another one.
And pick up the phone. It's important that you said that because, you know, if you hang out in AA or 12-step programs, you're going to hear a lot of cliches over and over and over. And the reason we hear them over and over again is because I forget all the time. It's like I'll be in a meeting and I'll hear something like the most profound thing that I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, that's going to change my life. I've waited 40 years to hear that. Why didn't I hear that earlier? I'm like, my whole life is going to turn around. And then a half hour, I walk out of there. I'm like, what did he say again? I can't remember. I forget. I fried a lot of brain cells back in my 20s. But, you know, the pick up the phone thing is so important because here's the cliche, the point I was getting to. Nothing changes if nothing changes. You're going to hear that over and over again. Nothing changes until something changes. So if I wake up in the morning and I'm hungover and I got a DUI last night or I got in a fight or whatever it is, or maybe you're not that bad. Maybe you just want to stop drinking because you're tired of having headaches. And you say, I'm not doing that. And then you go over to the freezer and make a drink. You're going to keep in that pattern until something changes. What Bizzy was talking about is like, pick up the phone and call somebody. Call me. My phone number is on here. Bizzy's phone number is somewhere on there too. Or email me.
Yeah, email me. Go to busylivingsober.com. My email address is on there. You can contact me very easily. I want to say this one last thing. I went to a church on the Upper East Side of New York City. I had almost 2 years of sobriety, and it was Palm Sunday. And I go to this church on the Upper East Side, and the minister gets up, and it's a woman, and she says, if you want to hear God, go to any church basement, because there you hear God. Because the reality is that people do not come into this program. So we all think that we're coming into this program like we are today, right? But no, we come in really broken. I always say that, like, my soul, when I came in to the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, looked like a stained glass window in an old church, right? In a very old church. And it's covered in soot. You know that there's something really beautiful there, right? But you can't see it because the stained glass has been old and it hasn't been cleaned. Glass becomes, but it takes time.
In some cases, it takes a lot of time. And, you know, I'll share what my sponsor told me years ago when I was crying. You know, life wasn't going the way I wanted to. I had credit card debt. I had a broken relationship, all this stuff. And I was like, but I'm doing all this stuff. Why aren't things going the way I want them to? And he said, and I still think of this all the time. And he died like 7 or 8 years ago. But he said, you know, Dennis, he said, God's creating a masterpiece and it takes a really long time. And I think about that all the time. And I think about him. He was my best friend. And, you know, when I first met him, he was one of those old Nazi AA kind of guys. And he used to say things to people that were newcomers. And I was like, he's awful. He's mean. I don't want to talk to him. And he ended up being like my best friend in the world. And I miss him all the time. And he taught me how to get through those things that we were just talking about where I get stuck. And where it's okay to ask for help, to reach out when you get stuck. Because those were the reasons I drank. But now it's like I still get stuck. And so now I ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help. In fact, it's better and easier to ask for help. So the last thing I wanted to talk about, she has on her website, Thirsty Thursday recipes. So let's talk about something fun. So we all know, if you're any type of drinker or went to college or any of that, Thirsty Thursday was a great excuse to start the weekend and get really drunk. So tell us what you did with Thirsty Thursday.
Okay, so I will back up. When I had to get sober and put down my best friend, alcohol, dirty martini, I thought I'm going to be boring, right? And as you can tell from my personality, I'm not very boring. I started this Thirsty Thursday because I know that people, just because we're sober doesn't mean we don't want to participate in life, right? So it was really important for me on Thirsty Thursday, I would make a drink that had no alcohol in it, but was still in a pretty glass, always made with Pellegrino. And at the end of the day, I haven't been doing Thursday as much because the reality is all I really drink is either Topo Chica. Have you had Topo Chica? I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it right. But it's, oh my God, it's the best. It's in a green bottle and it's got lime flavor. It's sparkling water. It's no calories. It's 0 calories. And I put it in, but it's bubbly. And I put it in a pretty glass and it looks like I'm having a drink because the reality is I'm getting more and more comfortable in my own skin. And Bizzy Living Sober, just so you know, is all about getting busy living sober. So how do I get busy living sober? I do all sorts of fun things. I go to the beach. I play golf. I run around. I just have this life that's so full today where I spend a lot of time sitting on a bar stool saying, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this. And I come back the next day, I hadn't done anything, right? I had all these ideas of grandeur that I wanted to have this amazing life, but I never did it because I was always hungover. So the longer I've stayed sober, the more busy I'm getting living sober and just having this life that's beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, I just have so much fun. I go to bed kind of early because I get up really early because I want to be up and see the sunrise and get out there and ride my bike to the beach and watch the sun come up, ride my bike back, go for a swim in the ocean like there's nothing better. It's like living life on life's terms. And it's amazing. It's amazing. And I just do it one day at a time. I just get busy living one day at a time. So I'm going to tell you what happened. I was doing it every week. Every Thursday, I would go live on Facebook and have people watch me. I mean, I have over 10,000 people watching me, and I'd be making a drink, and I take a lemon or a lime. I do fun, they sell all these crazy sugars now that you can put on the rim of the glass, and it can be sparkly and purple, and kids would love that too. And for Christmas, I do all these fun little drinks. So I would go on Thursday, I'd be live dancing in my kitchen, acting like a kook, and my husband would film me, and I'd make these drinks. Every time I do it, people love it. I just haven't been doing it as recently. Maybe I should get back to doing Thursday, but it was all about having fun. I want to have fun as a sober woman, right? I want to show my kids that just because I don't drink doesn't mean I don't have any fun. Because I make these fun drinks. Some of them have more sugar than other ones. So if you're watching what you're drinking, you might not want to have all that sugar. But they have grenadine in them, which is just, syrup. I make a lot of simple syrups with different things like lavender and mint, fresh mint. You can make them with thyme, with these herbs, and it's just it's literally a cup of sugar and a cup of water, and you put in whatever flavor you want. If you want it vanilla, if you want it lavender, as I just said, if you want to have chamomile, you can put chamomile flowers in it, and you mix it with your favorite water, and it makes this pretty drink. And you feel like you can go to those parties that I mentioned I didn't do for about a year. I didn't go to any of those parties because it didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable yet in my own skin. That was really big for me. So making sure that I had a drink that I like to drink. So now when I go to my parties, my weddings, my other functions, I go straight to the bar and I'm like, oh, do you have Pellegrino? And they 9 out of 10 times either have Pellegrino or they have Perrier. And I'll say, I'll have that with a twist of a lime and put it in a pretty glass. No one knows what I'm drinking.
Yeah, and they don't care either. They're not keeping track of it the way that we did. One thing I wanted to close it with, which relates a lot to what you just said, it was I always was under the impression that life had to be fun all the time. But my idea with fun was I needed to be in a bar playing pool, listening to some loud music and snorting some cocaine in the bathroom. Now that I live the life that I do, I still want to have fun, just like everything you said. But here's the thing. As you grow up, as you mature, as you stay sober, whatever verbiage you want to use, I still want to have fun. But my idea of what's fun has changed. And I have fun. I can have fun going to the symphony. I can have fun waking up and watching the sunrise. That's fun. And I have fun making nice meals. And I have fun talking with people that we have similar interests. As you grow up, your idea of what's fun changes. If you're still clinging onto some fun that you used to have 20 years ago in high school when you were drinking, maybe it's time to change.
I think that you have to want to change is the hardest part. And other people that are around you, and I want to just throw this out there. I know there's a lot of people that have loved ones that say you may have a drinking problem, you may have a drug problem. I'm going to throw you into this. I'm going to throw you into this rehab. I think number one, honesty is a huge key in this world. And you need to be honest at least with somebody. And if you're not just somebody, just one person, I don't care if it's a stranger, be honest with somebody. And you have to want this. It is a really hard thing to want. And there's a lot of bottoms out there. And you described a bottom of someone that wasn't even their bottom, right? It wasn't their bottom losing their legs. And your bottom is your bottom, and you can let your bottom be whatever you want it to be. And don't judge it against other people's. It's your stuff. Own your own stuff. It doesn't matter what the person next to you did. Whatever works for you. We're human beings. We're not machines. So we all are different. And make sure you treat yourself with kid gloves.
I love that. Thank you so much, Bizzy, for being on the show today.
Thanks so much, Dennis, for having me on.
Cool. Thanks for tuning in today to the Funky Brain Podcast, and tell us your website again and how to contact you.
It's www.bizzy, B-U-S-Y, living, L-I-V-I-N-G, sober, S-O-B-E-R.com, BizzyLivingSober.com. Also, you can reach me at Bizzy, B-I-Z-Z-Y, at BizzyLivingSober.com, and that's B-U-S-Y. Thank you again, Dennis. Thanks so much. And you can find me on I'm on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Instagram. I'm on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel called Bizzy Living Sober. I'm all over the place. Just go find me.
Right on, everybody. Thanks for watching. Have a great day today. I'll see you again soon. Bye for now. So you can't think your way into a new way of acting. You have to act your way into a new way of thinking and being. Hi, I'm Dennis Berry, best-selling author, speaker, and life coach for addiction recovery. So many people are stuck in their addiction, whether it's like drugs or alcohol or food or shopping or sex or money, and they think they can just stop or try to figure it out on their own, but they don't change anything in their lives. Nothing changes if nothing changes. In order for change to happen, you have to change something. My clients will be like, oh, I'll stop tomorrow, or if this happens, then I stop, or someday I'll just give it up. And then they just sit around and think, and hope for different or better results, but it doesn't happen. You have to take action. Action most people aren't willing to take. People don't become willing until they're in enough pain, me included. And unfortunately, they wait, and they wait. And time passes by. Even if you are willing, you don't even know where to begin. And that's where I come in. In my best-selling book, Funky Wisdom, A Practical Guide to Life, I talk about the how approach. How do I get sober? How do I stop doing drugs? How do I become healthier? How do I have more successful relationships? How do I become more financially successful? And the answer is how. Honesty, open-mindedness, and willingness. I have to honestly admit that there's a problem. I have to honestly admit that things aren't going well and there needs to be changes. And then once I do that, the door opens and I become open to seeing new ways of living. And then I become willing to make those changes. You can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. That's why I'm here to help. And, you know, I've been working with clients for over 15 years and helping them get clean and sober and change their lives and achieve inner peace and success. If you or somebody you love is struggling and doesn't know where to begin and how to make those changes to get to where they need to be, give me a call. Not tomorrow or in a week from now when you're hungover and your life is falling apart. Call now. Start making that change today and you'll be glad that you did. I'm sending you love and good vibes. Have a great day today.